Caleb Jensen found Adrian Holt in the sprawling home office, a space of dark wood and floor-to-ceiling glass that overlooked the glittering expanse of Los Angeles. Adrian was staring at something in his hands, a silver picture frame, with an expression of such gentle, complicated longing that he didn't notice Caleb's approach. It was only when Caleb was standing beside the massive mahogany desk that Adrian startled, quickly flipping the frame face down. He looked up, his usual mask of careless arrogance snapping back into place, and asked why Caleb was there. Caleb's gaze flickered to the overturned frame before meeting Adrian's. He mentioned that he had called Adrian's name several times without a response. Adrian feigned a moment of recollection, his eyes clouding over with a manufactured sadness before he offered a brilliant, hollow smile. He apologized for being lost in thought, so much so that he hadn't even heard Caleb enter. He playfully reached for Caleb's hand, a casual, proprietary gesture. Caleb, smiling politely, subtly withdrew his arm, a practiced motion of resistance. He disliked Adrian's touch. Caleb explained that Adrian's friend had called, wanting to know if he was coming to the races at the private track in the hills. Since Adrian hadn't answered, Caleb had taken the message. He glanced again at the hidden photograph, his curiosity piqued but left unvoiced. It was unusual for Adrian to be so distracted. Since their arrangement had begun, Adrian had cultivated an image of singular focus on Caleb, a reformed playboy whose world had narrowed to one person. Adrian declared that he had no desire to go, dismissing the idea as boring. He claimed he only wanted to spend time with Caleb. Caleb's expression remained impassive, his dark eyes unreadable. He was accustomed to these pronouncements of affection, words that felt as empty as the cavernous mansion they lived in. Adrian's devotion was a performance, and Caleb was a captive audience. But this time, Caleb saw an opportunity. He suggested that Adrian had been cooped up for too long and that a change of scenery would do him good. He then made an offer that was, for him, unprecedented. He would go with him. A flicker of genuine surprise crossed Adrian's face. He studied Caleb for a moment before a slow, pleased smile spread across his lips. He agreed, interpreting the offer as a sign of warmth, a crack in the icy facade Caleb maintained. The Summit Club was a gilded playground for the city's elite, carved into the winding roads of the Santa Monica Mountains. It reeked of new money and old rivalries. Adrian Holt, the quintessential prodigal son, was welcomed like royalty. The moment he appeared with Caleb Jensen in tow, however, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers followed them. One of Adrian's friends, a man with a cruel smirk, made a pointed comment about Caleb's audacity for showing his face there, calling him a shameless product of an affair. Caleb's status as the unacknowledged son of the Jensen patriarch was an open secret, a stain that made him a target for the sport of bored, wealthy heirs. He stood impassively, his jaw tight, having long ago learned to absorb such insults without flinching. Before he could even register it, Adrian had stepped forward, his arms slung protectively around Caleb's shoulders. Adrian's voice was dangerously low as he warned the group that Caleb was with him, and any issue they had should be taken up with him directly. He added that a person's birth was not their choice, and the next person to speak out of turn would regret it. The sudden silence was absolute. Caleb stood rigid under the weight of Adrian's arm, stunned. This defense was not part of their script. Adrian's sponsorship was a transaction, a gift from the Jensen family to appease the Holts. It was rooted in power and convenience, not protection. Not this. He felt the tension in Caleb's shoulders and gently squeezed, whispering for him not to be afraid, that no one would hurt him while he was there. For the first time, when Adrian took his hand to lead him toward the viewing deck, Caleb did not pull away. They settled onto a plush sofa overlooking the track. Adrian's closest friend, Leo, sauntered over, grinning. He asked if Adrian was planning to race. Adrian, lounging with one leg crossed over the other, pulled out a silver cigarette case. He had just lit a cigarette when he glanced at Caleb, remembered his distaste for the smell, and immediately crushed it out in an ashtray. The gesture did not go unnoticed. Caleb looked away, pretending not to see. Leo, however, let out a low whistle, his smile turning mocking. He remarked on how a simple dislike from someone else had achieved what years of his own nagging couldn't, calling Adrian's transformation pathetic. Adrian ignored him, stating he was just there to get some air and watch. It was Caleb who spoke next, his voice quiet but clear. He commented that he had never seen a professional race up close and asked Adrian if he knew how to drive like that. He looked at Adrian, his dark eyes wide with a carefully constructed curiosity. Adrian turned, his own eyes, a warm hazel, lighting up. He confirmed that he could, asking if Caleb wanted to see. Caleb's hesitant yes was all the encouragement he needed. A triumphant grin spread across Adrian's face. He had said he wouldn't race, but perhaps a kiss might persuade him. The teasing suggestion hung in the air. As Caleb stiffly began to lean in, a portrait of reluctant submission, Adrian stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. He laughed, but there was a bitter, disappointed edge to it that Caleb couldn't decipher. He told Caleb he was only joking and that he felt like driving anyway. He would be honored to have Caleb watch. Adrian picked up a tablet displaying the available club cars and quickly selected a familiar model. Caleb, however, leaned over, his finger tracing the screen until it landed on a sleek, silver McLaren GT3. He asked what about that one. This was the car. The one his silent partner, Adrian's biggest rival, had arranged to be tampered with. The car that would secure the final round of funding for Caleb's tech startup. Adrian hesitated for a fraction of a second. Leo scoffed at the request, annoyed at Caleb's presumption. But Adrian immediately agreed, telling Leo to have the McLaren brought around. To everyone watching, it was just another example of Adrian Holt's blind indulgence. He would give Caleb Jensen anything he asked for, and Caleb would give him nothing but cold tolerance in return. Before heading down to the track, Adrian looked back at Caleb, who offered a small, encouraging smile. Adrian returned it, a flash of brilliance, then turned and walked toward his fate, his silhouette appearing strangely lonely against the bright lights of the starting line. The roar of engines was a physical force. As the flag dropped, Adrian's McLaren shot from the line, a silver bullet taking an immediate lead. On the second lap, a subtle vibration started in the chassis. A cold sweat broke out on Adrian's palms. The steering wheel began to shudder violently. The car veered, no longer responding to his control, and slammed into the rocky mountainside with a deafening shriek of metal. The airbag deployed with brutal force, filling his world with white. The smell of gasoline and burning rubber was suffocating. From the balcony, Caleb watched the chaos unfold. He saw Adrian, slumped and bloodied in the wrecked vehicle. A cold sense of finality washed over him. He had won. This was justice. He walked down to the crash site, drawn by a morbid curiosity. He stood by the shattered window, looking in at Adrian. He had expected to feel triumph, but all he felt was a hollow ache. Adrian's eyes fluttered open and found his. He tried to smile, a weak, reassuring gesture, then saw the coldness in Caleb's gaze and let it fall. He seemed to understand. Leo shoved past Caleb, shouting Adrian's name, frantic. Adrian coughed, his voice a rasping whisper, and told Leo not to blame him, not to be hard on Caleb. The words struck Caleb with the force of a physical blow. Even now, broken and bleeding, Adrian's first thought was to protect him. Caleb stared, his mind reeling, a profound and terrifying confusion taking root. The antiseptic smell of the hospital was sharp and clean. Caleb stood by the window of the private room as Leo, his face contorted with rage, grabbed him by the collar. He accused Caleb of being a curse, a two-faced schemer, and swore that if Adrian didn't make it, he would personally destroy him. Caleb didn't resist. His gaze drifted to the bed, where Adrian was stirring. Adrian's eyes opened, found theirs, and he immediately ordered Leo to stop. He told them he was fine, that it was nobody's fault. When Leo protested, arguing that every car was inspected and only the one Caleb chose had failed, Adrian was resolute. He insisted it wasn't Caleb, that it was a coincidence. He said he trusted him. The words hung in the silent room. Leo, shaking with impotent fury, stormed out. Once they were alone, Adrian called for Caleb to come closer. A lawyer entered, handing Adrian a thick folder. Adrian pulled out a sheaf of papers and held them out. He told Caleb to sign it. It was a stock transfer agreement, giving Caleb a controlling interest in Holt Industries. Caleb stood frozen, staring at the documents. He asked why. Adrian looked at him, his face pale against the white pillows, and smiled faintly. He said Caleb knew why. He would give him anything he wanted, anything he needed. There was a clarity in his eyes that Caleb had never seen before, a complete absence of the usual playful facade. It was as if he knew everything and was choosing to ignore it. Caleb's heart hammered against his ribs. Adrian reached out, his fingers gently tracing the line of Caleb's jaw. He murmured that Caleb's smile never reached his eyes, that it wasn't like his. He never smiled that way. He then began to speak of someone else, a beautiful, tragic boy named Sebastian. He described him as his first and only love, a delicate soul who loved white roses and classical music, who was too frail for the world. He explained that Sebastian had died, and ever since, Adrian had been searching for a piece of him. He looked at Caleb, his eyes filled with a story of epic, heartbreaking loss, and confessed that he had only pursued Caleb because of the resemblance. All his actions, all his gifts, all his declarations, they were not for Caleb. They were offerings to a ghost. The world tilted on its axis. Caleb understood. He was not the object of a twisted obsession. He was a replacement, a stand-in. The humiliation was a physical burn, hotter and more painful than any insult he had ever endured. The anger was so intense it left him breathless, but underneath it was a confusing, unfamiliar sting of disappointment. He wasn't even worthy of Adrian's real attention. He was just a shadow. With a hand that trembled slightly, he took the contract and tore it in half, then in quarters, letting the pieces flutter to the floor. He informed Adrian that he didn't want things that were never meant for him. He turned and walked out without a backward glance. A year passed. Freed from Adrian's orbit, Caleb's ascent was meteoric. His tech company thrived, while the already rotting core of Holt Industries collapsed under the weight of its own corruption, a process Caleb discreetly accelerated. Adrian Holt vanished from the public eye, his fall from grace as spectacular as his former life. Caleb bought the foreclosed Holt mansion on a whim, telling himself it was a symbol of his victory. But he found himself wandering its empty halls, haunted by a silence that felt heavier than it should. He knew Adrian would be back, not for the money or the art, but for the one thing he truly valued. One moonless night, he heard a sound from the office. He moved silently, finding Adrian standing in the darkness by the desk, the silver picture frame clutched in his hand. Caleb stepped out of the shadows. He remarked coolly that he knew Adrian would come back for him. Not for Caleb, but for the ghost in the frame. Adrian looked up, his face thinner, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He was no longer the flamboyant heir, but a man hollowed out by loss. Caleb felt a grim satisfaction. The power dynamic had irrevocably shifted. He informed Adrian that he was destitute and had nowhere to go. He could offer no resistance if Caleb decided to do something to him. And so, Adrian became a prisoner in his own former palace. Caleb began a strange, meticulous ritual. He filled the gardens with white roses. He spent hours in the library, reading poetry aloud in a monotone voice. He bought Adrian a wardrobe of white shirts. He was performing the role of Sebastian, trying to become the ghost that held Adrian's heart. He was trying to win even if it meant becoming someone else. It was a torturous, obsessive game, and it was breaking them both. One afternoon, as Caleb read from a book of verse, Adrian finally broke. He told him to stop. He confessed that there was no Sebastian. The name, the story, the picture of a distant cousin who vaguely resembled Caleb. It was all a fabrication, a desperate lie concocted to save his own skin from the fate he thought he deserved. Caleb stopped reading, but he didn't look at Adrian. He didn't believe him. He thought it was just another manipulation, another layer to the game. He asked, his voice flat, if that was true, then did Adrian love him? The question hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Adrian looked at Caleb, truly looked at him, and the pieces of the past year clicked into place. The crash, the hospital, the fear, the obsessive defense of a man he thought was trying to destroy him. The hollow ache when Caleb left. The desperate search. It was never about a ghost. It was always about Caleb. The realization was a painful, liberating shock. The feeling he had been chasing, trying to name, was not a memory. It was real, and it was for the man standing before him. He admitted that he had never wanted to harm Caleb, only that he had feared him, and in that fear, he had come to love him. Caleb finally turned to look at him, his expression unreadable. He asked him to say it again. Adrian did. And again. It wasn't enough. The words were not enough to fill the void of insecurity and doubt that had been carved into him. He had his confession, but he had no peace. Adrian was his, trapped not by walls, but by a desperate, unending need for affirmation. He would spend the rest of his days proving his love, answering the same question over and over, a prisoner in a gilded cage of their shared creation.